So when you don't know what to measure, you often end up measuring a lot of stuff that don't really affect your business at all. So the challenge in most cases is not what you can measure, but what should be measured. That brings us to the strategic aspect. So there are 4 different major aspects of what you can measure in web tracking.
So the first one is conversion, analyzing funnel progress, the influence of a factor X, and attributing sales down towards campaigns, to assets I used beforehand, and so on. So the conversion focus. In difference to that, there are tools and also aspects of web tracking focus on the user experience explicitly. So how do they consume content? How do they scroll? How do they hover? How do they interact with pages, web assets, and co? How does my internal linkage work? Does it funnel the user correctly where I want it to be? Or does the user find links where he expects them to be?
A prime example of the importance of how to place links are CTAs. I need to analyze where on the website a user expects a shiny, flashy button to appear in order to be clicked, or in order for him to go to the next page or the next action that is desired. If I misplace my CTAs, the user might be stuck in the part where it's actually interesting content-wise, but he doesn't find the corresponding button that he needs to continue his journey.
And then I can also find some behavioral patterns. Like we are now at a point where I can do that. For example, rage clicks. So when the user starts hammering the mouse button.
Because the link doesn't execute and the tool is automatically recognizing that behavioral pattern, then you can find the critical spots on your website where you need to intervene, or maybe where you need to actually just change the link or the atom you're using.
Then we have system performance. Core Web Vitals is a framework by Google to measure the experience of the user on the page. While Google Search Console is classically focusing on the experience of the user before the page, Google now measures how does the page perform, how is the load time, how long is the interaction until the user sees the next page after the first page. So Google is actively punishing you if your Core Web Vitals are bad. Like you lose ranking. That's the whole thing about it. They say this framework determines if the customer has a bad experience because the system doesn't perform, then you get a downgrade. And the last thing is user profiling. I can actually, if I expand these patterns to a certain degree, then I can actually start measuring the current emotional state of my user. I said rage click, right? What if I have like 5 different patterns that all indicate rage? What does it mean for the emotional state of my user? Is he satisfied? Is he happy? So what do I do with that?
The point is, knowing in which emotional state my user is gives me the option to act on it. It's not the solution to it, but it's the option. The same option goes for scoring models like propensity scoring. I know then in which affinity, in which propensity towards a certain product, to a certain group of products, or the next best product in line the user is already oriented. So I can act upon that. What brings us to the last part in user profiling, which is demographics. So these are the 4 parts that we consider strategic aspects of web tracking and that I need to think about when I build the architecture for my setup, when I build the data model, and when I build the tool variety or the selection of tools that I'm going to use to create that data. So thanks for listening for today, and please, as always, if you have further questions or the request for deeper knowledge, you know where to find webalyse.